hop uncensored, viral breaking news. Oh God, it's Sammy, two stand-up dudes, raw and uncut interviews. Feed the culture in the world, ever changing. The brothers bringing you closer. Mikey tapped in, hottest unbiased content. Like, share, subscribe, leave your thoughts in the comments. Screaming the truth louder than they scream the lies. Unplugged from the matrix, support my God. Podcast that bypass the test of time. Hip hop uncensored, here to open your mind. Bringing you the latest from the world of entertainment. It's time to get into it. Y'all ready? Let's do it.
Welcome to another episode of the Hip Hop Uncensored Podcast. I'm your brother, O God, from Hip Hop News Uncensored, and sitting across from me is my co-host.
What up, y'all? It's your man, Sam, and CEO of Viral Hip Hop News. You're in the building for a very special edition of the Hip Hop Uncensored Podcast on this beautiful Monday. We got a special guest in the building. Our brother, Maj Toure, is on the podcast. What's good with you, family? How you feeling?
What's up? How y'all feeling? I'm wonderful. You know what I'm saying? I'm here at the Solutionary Center getting some inventory done. Got it smelling like Nog Chompa in the joint. You know what I'm saying? We having a good time. I wouldn't dare complain. You know what I mean?
Good, man. Good. Appreciate you coming on the show, man. Appreciate everything you're doing out here in these streets, brother. Owner of Black Guns Matter, as well as many other things, man. So let's just get right to it. We started off, you said that you was just caught up in all this Kanye shit, man. And what's your thoughts on everything that we're seeing? We seen him with the White Lives Matter shirt with Candace Owens, and then we heard him speaking on the documentary that Candace Owens just recently released, and then obviously the interview yesterday heard around the world. So what's your thoughts on it?
I think he's right half the time. He's wrong some of the time. The statement about George Floyd, that was a dumbass talking point that a lot of the white conservatives. I have a lot of conservative followers.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And a lot of I've done Candace Owens' show. I mean, she's I think she means well, but I think she caught up in a certain level of like, you got to placate to the base, as most media outlets are. That's nothing special, and that's not a diss. I think that instead of being, Darren Seals told us that BLM was a sham before he was murdered, and if folks don't know who Darren Seals is or was and how he got killed and how that Ferguson movement turned into the Black Lives Matter, and it was co-opted. He told us about that however many years ago before his death. Strong Black men have been saying that. So like talking about BLM at this point, and you're just placating to a base that wants a talking point, and that's just it. It's not new. It's like saying slavery is bad now is nothing. Saying slavery and fighting against it as an abolitionist in America or whatever part of the globe that slavery was happening in during the time when it was happening, then it's that now you being brave. So I think that he got talking points from her. I don't think he has. I think he's smart, but I don't think it's like Trump. I don't think they got the right advisors around, and that doesn't mean that they got to have a bunch of yes men around or only tell them to say safe things. It's the articulation of it, and I think that he's talking to some of those points that we already knew. Black Lives Matter as a movement is obviously the movement, but the incorporation has not been on top of what they on. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying if they bought mansions, I don't care. I care, did you do something with the community? Like, did you turn, stuff like that? So in regards to, Kanye, I think that he's right a lot of the times in regards to what he said about the Jewish community, that nobody should take that as a slight. Nobody, no Jewish person should be calling that anti-Semitic. The Jewish community has got on their game and they get money, which is smart. That is capitalism. You don't have to take a deal with, you don't have to not take a deal with Jewish people. You don't have to take a deal with Jewish people. Don't get mad. It's like when people be arguing about gentrification. It's like, well, you had that empty lot in your community for 30 years. You spent 30 grand at the strip club. Don't talk to me about because a developer came in and did what they supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? Everybody want to talk about what the devil doing, but is God doing what God's supposed to do? You know what I mean? And so I think he's right on some of those talking points. I think that they're going to play the victim like they are. $140 million. He's critical of, JP Morgan, and they close his account. That's goofy. And they're proving his point. So, but I think for our people, and when I say our people, I mean people in the struggle. I live in a Black community. If I lived in a struggling white community, I would be talking more directly to white people in that community. I think that our people need to recognize that I think it's important that he's showcasing the contradiction that happens a lot. He's showcasing, Charlemagne got on there and said he was speaking anti-Semitic. That's bullshit. It's not true. Anti-Semitic means I hate Jewish people, right? And that's not what was being said. But they're proving the point. But I think that our people need to recognize that we got way more work to do than like what is going on with Kanye West or entertainment in general. You know what I'm saying? Like our elected officials and so-called representatives are flirting with nuclear war with Russia. Like most people in America are not landowners. Like the general public is living like right above the poverty line. I think our people need to think about that. And if you want to pull excerpts from the Kanye thing, talk about that when he's talking about that. But I love that he's shaking up the narrative, and I love that they are proving him right. Some of the shit he's saying in regards to George Floyd dying, we wouldn't even have a question about whether George Floyd died with a knee on his neck, which has been proven unequivocally that that's how he died. Like he's just flat out wrong there. But we wouldn't even have that question if there wasn't a police officer kneeling on his fucking neck for 8 minutes.
Right.
So there's that. But the lesson from all of this is buy land, get guns, train, learn to grow some food, develop a skill set, support community organizations locally and on the state level, especially that are doing the work like we're doing at the Solutionary Center, and just get your strength up, because whether he's an entertainer talking about these things or not, we are seeing the ramifications. He said something on that interview too. He said, if they're treating me like this and I have 140 million of my dollars in their bank, how do y'all think that they're going to treat everybody else? And I think that's real. So the realness should be applied into what you're doing to not have yourself in that position, to not have $2, $3, $5 million in their bank, not having very much in cash or assets, and being dependent on the state or, agents of the state, or even private sector people that we just seem to just give our money to. If Kanye wants to really, really showcase, I saw another part of that clip where he said he was talking to Puff, and Puff was like, yo, you should go buy a bank. He said, I don't know how. Well, you don't have to. One United Bank is a black bank. Like, just transfer your $140 million right there. So that's my kind of long-winded take on the whole Kanye thing. If we're not using it, he getting hit by some grifters for sure, and he doesn't have the articulate nature to read or the time and energy to read and study like somebody like us would or do. So he's getting talking points. Some of them are right, some of them are absolutely wrong. Respect to Candace Owens, but that shit is all the way wrong. Most of the talking points he gets from her are, repulsive to the black community. So you can't repulse the black community while saying you're trying to empower the black community to go in a different political and social direction. So there's a bunch of lessons for us in that, but it's bigger than entertainment.
Right. I want to talk about the movement, Black Guns Matter.
Yeah.
Interesting movement. And I actually been following you for a while. I've been subscribed to your channel for a while now. Talk about, the foundation of getting that started. How did that whole concept get started with you? Yeah,
we in 2015, going into the 2016 election, we just kept, every 4 years they say the same exact thing. Mm-hmm. Oh man, is a boogeyman, is a scare tactic, depending on if it's the Republican, Democrat. They're gonna try to scare the communities into, man, you better vote for us. Like, it's a fear tactic. So during that particular national election, the presidential election, we kept hearing the scare tactics, and everybody's like, voters registration drive, register to vote. And I was like, yo, we need a license to carry drive. And it was a joke, but then we was like, yo, actually, we kind of do. So we did an event. It was called Black Guns Matter. And then a bunch of people came. It was in Philly. And it was beautiful. We fed the people. We thought like 30 people would show up. Like 300 people showed up in this small space. Wow. Some people came from Brooklyn. People came from Jersey. People came from everywhere. And we was like, yo, people really don't know what to do here. And so we just started snowballing. And so we said, yo, let's do 13 cities like the first 13 colonies. It was so funny because we ain't had no money. Like I was not selling anything unlawful anymore. And like my bank had was drying up, you know what I'm saying? And but we were driving, we drove. I would never drive to Chicago again in a regular vehicle from Philly. Like we drove to Chicago for our first Chicago class. But my point though is we started doing them 13 cities. And after we did it, we said, obviously we said, let's do a GoFundMe. And we did that. And the goal was like 25K, some small number. And we did that. And then everybody started hitting us up like, yo, it's fucked up. You ain't come to our town. You only went to the big cities. You don't give a fuck about the people. And I'm like, damn, like we just did 13 cities.
Right.
And the people keep wanting it. So we just kept raising the goal and we kept going. And there's obviously things in between. But then we started to recognize we need to have a location that we can showcase that this can be fruitful, not just in, monetary sense, but also like we need to be able to teach people more than just firearms. We need to teach, we always taught conflict resolution, but we need to teach people basic civics. We need to teach people how to sew. We need to teach people phlebotomy, anything that's going to help develop skill sets. So then that transferred into the Solutionary Center, where we are now. We have an event space that if you teach a class, you can teach a class here for free. If you know how to do something, you can schedule and use the space. If you want to learn something, you can go to the website and register for one of the free classes. But our communities needed and still do need more than just firearms ownership. When I teach somebody about firearms ownership and safe and responsible firearms handling, I got to teach them about conflict resolution and avoiding goofy shit.
Yeah.
I have to, you know what I mean? It's like, it's almost irresponsible not to. And so that means I also got to teach you about what's the purpose of why do we have the Second Amendment? What the Second Amendment to what? What is the Bill of Rights? What is the Constitution? That's going to lead into a more robust conversation. And so the center, that's what we do. And we do this right over the next couple of years. We're going to get with some really, really rich folks and be like, look, let's do another city. This needs to be in every urban city in America. The young people need to have a place, and it needs to be bigger than this. It needs to be like a damn near a school where you can go weld, you know what I'm saying? Where you could go learn the garden in the back. The closest thing that I see to it right now, there's a few spots. Jay Morrison down in Atlanta has something amazing at the Legacy Center. I was down there a few weeks ago. But, it just needs to have a bigger capability. And going from just guns to all of the things that we, teach now, stop the bleed classes, things like that. It's just stuff that our community needs. So we still obviously do Black Guns Matter classes. We have them here every week, Saturday, and they're free. But, having this space and then figuring out how to do it consistently. And while we fundraise, while making all of these classes free to all, it's kind of the play on our part. So, and then we'll roll it out. Then we'll have something to show, wealthy investors that got Q4, you want to donate some money, donate it here so we could, continue to do what we're doing. And I think that's very important. So that's how Black Guns Matter started. That's how we rolled out into the Solutionary Center. And they're interchangeable.
Listening to you and watching you for the time that we have, it's interesting because although we don't know your story particularly, we all have a story of growing up in Black households is where religion, no matter what type of religion, was very strong in our household. And if you grew up around places where gun violence was prominent, a lot of our elders kind of shunned us away from guns. Guns aren't good. Guns aren't this. Guns aren't that. So we have this predisposed notion that if we were to go grab a firearm, one, the Bill of Rights and Second Amendment don't apply to us because we're not people. This is what's in our mind. And if we were to go grab a firearm, we got to go grab one. How we go grab one? We're not registering shit because we don't trust nothing.
Yeah.
So what was the change for you? Because I don't know if your ideals and your way of thinking was always this way, but if it wasn't, what was the change? And what do you think about the misconceptions that do plague the Black community, in particular to firearms?
So I've carried a gun quietly since I was 15. I've had relationships that lasted for years. My mom didn't, my pops, nobody knew I had a gun until I started BGM. And when I started BGM, nobody ever saw me with a gun. Like it started a rumor. It was like, yo, he's probably convicted. He's a convicted felon. I was like, bro, I don't know shit about jail. Like I don't know nothing. I've caught cases. I beat them. The thing that's on my jacket is I sold DVDs. Everybody in Philly knows I was on the train selling DVDs for years, right? So I was just, we don't really talk about guns in our community for that reason. But then with it wasn't really a change though. When I was in high school, I used to sell weed in school, and if it was weak, like if it wasn't no sales in there, especially Monday, Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, it ain't no money jumping in there, so I'm out. And so what I used to do was I would get absolutely blasted, and I would take tours of City Hall. And in Philly, you can take the elevator all the way up to the top of City Hall where William Penn is. And I would be up there like absolutely high. But I would take these tours and I would go to all of these different places. You know what I'm saying? I would take tours of Benjamin Franklin's workshop, his print shop, which is in Old City. I would take tours of what William Penn is pointing to, the Masonic building that's on the northeast corner of Broad Street, across the street from City Hall. I would go in there and see they had an Egyptian room, so-called Egyptian, right? Kemetic, but they had rooms and artifacts from all of it. They had a Jewish room. They had all of this stuff. You know what I mean? Philly is a very, very historically prominent city. You know, I started learning shit like the art museum was built on like the base of a pyramid. Some of this shit I just was like, get the fuck out of here. And then starting to look more, I would just read this stuff. And then I've had jobs at different, you know, Philadelphia is like a colonial town, you know? Right. And so it just would open my eyes and I would mix people together. The conversation, like Benjamin Franklin was a multi-level genius. There's no doubt about that. Like, you know what I mean? Then when I found out these dudes like took drugs, like they had hemp farms and shit, I was like, what? Basically, Philly, like America was created by a bunch of Philly dudes or like people that lived or had strong ties to Philadelphia. Philadelphia was known as Rebel City. Philadelphia, when William Penn received the land from his father, who was an admiral, he wanted to trade with the Lenape indigenous people, the Lenape tribe. Philadelphia was going to be a city about absolute freedom. Now, obviously, there's contradictions because of the concept of slavery, right? But there's a halfway point to that. On one hand, some of those founders was like, yo, I don't know if we should do this America shit. We should abolish slavery. But then some of the southern states was like, nah, bro, we getting money. So it was a conflict there. Usually, depending on where you lie, right, or where you get your education from, they'll either tell you all the founding fathers was absolute racist and hated everything. They don't tell you about Thomas Paine, who influenced all of them, who was like, hell no, we're not owning slaves. It's contradictory during the same time, right? When it was hard to talk about slavery in a negative light. When they don't tell you about, you know, Sam Adams. They don't tell us about, you know, Patrick Henry. They don't tell us about these dudes like George Mason that were like liberty dudes, right? Especially in our demographic.
Right.
So they'll package it like all of those dudes was just absolutely all the way racist. Everything was 100% racist. They won't say how the United States government was primarily responsible for that, right? Because they don't want you to hold the state accountable if you start having this conversation about reparations. But the other side was, you know, it would be like, they don't tell you that Thomas Jefferson, while he was writing the Declaration of Independence, now mind you, that might be one of the singularly most fire documents of all time. Like his pen was crazy. Like that's just what it was. But at the same time, he owned humans and it's a contradiction. You know what I'm saying? So like me going to these places and listening to the people talk and already having at the same time, you know, in my high school years, I was reading Anthony Browder from the Browder Files, you know, Nile Valley Contributions to Civilization, you know what I'm saying? The ISIS Papers, the autobiography of Malcolm X, the Course of African Philosophy by Marcus Garvey. So I was mixing these people together. They all was fighting for freedom and they all had contradictions. The only person that I think that didn't really have a contradiction like that was Malcolm. Malcolm just kept growing in front of us and didn't, like when the CIA was tapping his shit, they ain't find nothing with like him and extra shorties. You know what I mean? He was like a super righteous dude. But everybody else, and I'm not judging nobody, but everybody else had their shit with him. You know what I'm saying? Ben Franklin was into all types of whole shit, like in Paris and France and like in Egypt. You know, obviously I said like the Thomas Jeffersons and you know, sleeping with his captives. George Washington was not this great dude. I mean, he was great on one level and was an awesome general, but you know, he had the racist shit. So my point is, I just was able to look at these people as humans and translate that to dudes in my hood. But in Philly, don't nobody go down to them. Like, that's like, we don't go to the Rocky Steps. Like, bro, we not. That's like asking somebody from New York, like, how many times you been to the Statue of Liberty? None, right. Motherfucker. Like, I just don't go there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So my position was always about liberty, but it was refined over time because I already had a good base of learning little things about intricate like nobody knows about John Brown. John Brown was like killing white people. He was a white dude. Like the Harper's Ferry raid anniversary was like October the 16th. It was like 2 days ago. He was killing white people. Like he literally was like, slavery is a scourge, and I'm gonna kill people. It can only be wiped out with blood. He was an ally that loved Frederick Douglass. Like this story ain't gonna be told. Robert Smalls, who like took a whole fucking ship and like took a Confederate ship, took it up the river, fought against the ops, and like, you know, all these great men and women. But for me, because I was there by myself to hear the story and I didn't have nobody to taint the story for me, I had a base of it. And all of these people, unequivocally, all of these people, these men that I just named, all of them was pro-gun. All of them. And so it was like, they wasn't talking this soft shit. And so for me, in high school, I didn't figure out how to translate that like I do now. But Malcolm, learning a little bit more of post-Mecca Malcolm and his ability to translate street shit on a corporate and international level, I was super influenced by. And so now it just became, how can I simplify this? Malcolm used to make a phrase when he was ready to be brought up on stage. He would say, make it plain to the speakers in front of him, right? How do you make this plain? How do you show Black people that the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and all of that are not inherently racist documents as written? There's nothing racist about them. And you got to use it like Malcolm would. Malcolm, when he went to prison, he turned the dictionary and turned it back against the oppressor. So I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to be open about it. And then being that way without down talking our people, without judging them negatively, recognizing that you are accountable for some of your shit. But I also understand that the state has put us in a trick bag.
Right.
Doing that way is how I was able to refine it over time. And that's how my thought process about the Second Amendment and arming the people kind of changed. Our classes ain't really about buying people guns. It's about, here's the why behind why this is important for you. And now let's expand your thought process about, if they told you that this wasn't for you, what else are they lying to you about that's not for you? And why the fuck we give a fuck about somebody telling us what's not for us? Whatever I want, that's for me, you know? And so just being articulate and being able to translate that to the demographic is kind of what my skill set is. And I'm a point guard, you know, I don't got to score for us to win a championship. I just got this to rock the right way.
Dope.
Yeah, I was watching one of your videos. I don't know how long ago it was. Probably around the time PNB Rock died, and he was talking about how important it is, you know, for, you know, rappers to be armed. Could you kind of get into that? And
you first and foremost, let me be clear. The things that I'm gonna say about these artists is not judgment in the sense of, I just know they don't know no better. Mm-hmm. I carry a gun everywhere. I got a gun on me right now. I'm not going nowhere without a gun. I've been to Compton I went to Compton twice in my life without a gun. I went at the beginning of the last day that right before the lockdown started. I was on Santa Monica Pier, had a great time. I didn't have a gun. I went over to Nip spot. It was closed down, but dudes from the 60s was still out there selling, you know, marathon shirts. Mm-hmm. I went out that joint with like $4 grand, pulled the cash out, no gun. Like, that's my community. You know what I'm saying? I'm not glorifying that shit though. But my point is, I generally go everywhere with a firearm. The hip hop artists, y'all talk about death a lot. There's power in the tongue. Not long before PNB Rock got murdered, this video with him saying like, ain't nobody never ran down on me, you gonna get blicked on. Bro, stop saying that shit. And I can only give a certain level of pass to an artist that is, if you talking at your lived experience, I understand that. That's your story, you telling it. I need you to match that with some entrepreneurialism in your music, like Nip. I need you to match that with some I got love for my lady type shit in your music. I don't want to hear you talking about Black Death all the time. Because all of you same tough guys that talk all of that shit, right? That's why people have such an affinity for some of the things that Charleston White says, even though he's an absolute fucking clown, right? He's a rat. He's an absolute rat. However, a broke clock is right 2 times a day. Mm-hmm. And so some of the stuff that he says about you talking about death, why would I respect you if you only talking about death, murder to your own people, right? That's what's going to come. The funny thing is, all of these same guys that talk that tough shit, right? I be seeing them get around like billionaires or other people, and they don't be talking that same shit. They like get real, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you can't. I'm very articulate. My word, I've got a thesaurus, an etymological dictionary, Black's Law Dictionary. Words is the shit, right? Word. I'm a wordsmith. But what I'm not going to do is like start changing my views on things because I'm around whoever. You know what I'm saying? That money ain't my fucking money, you know? And I don't give a fuck about you. You know how many lanes it is with a lot of bread? So I see these guys that say these things, death. And my question is, when we going to shoot the police that's shooting us? You know what I'm saying? When I'll teach you how to shoot. When you going to shoot the people that's destroying our community? When you going to shoot to protect your family? All of this, when I hear motherfuckers talking about, I couldn't carry a gun. Why not? I do. Well, I wasn't legally able to carry one. So what? The Second Amendment is clear. See, that's the thing. The Second Amendment is the supreme law of the land. But motherfuckers talk all this tough shit. Don't carry no fucking gun. Listen, bro. If I'm in a jam, it's several levels of failure that already happened, which means I already wasn't paying attention on a situational awareness tip, which is a falsehood. 2, because I'm never doing that. 2, I was arrogant. You talk all this death shit. You talk about having it on you. Pop Smoke, God Bless the Dead, and all of these men that I'm talking about. You got a song called I Got It On Me. You did not fucking have it on you. Mm-hmm. Everybody talking about I'm strapped, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. Then they get arrested or shot and killed. And here's the arrogant part. You in an area that's high. I go to that Roscoe's every time I'm in LA. I go to the one over there by the gun range in LAX and Randy's Donuts. Because I like jumping on taking the picture. I jump up on the roof of Randy's Donuts and take a picture in the donut, right? And there's a gun range around the corner from there called LAX Gun Range. I'm at that Roscoe's and the other one all the time with a fucking gun. But you know what I'm not with? A bunch of jewelry. Why would you test the streets like that? And you said if I want to test where you at, all right, cool. Like 50 said something a couple of months ago, or I seen it a couple of days ago. He was like, even a person that's tough or strong or ain't afraid of nothing, he gonna be hard to chew on, but we still gonna get him. And a lot of these dudes they ain't in a gym, they don't fight. They care about, they too pretty. So like, stop talking that tough shit. Now, this does not justify their death. Let me be clear about that.
Right.
This is not me saying they deserve to die. Because if I would be that arrogant to say that, that would be like me saying Nip deserved to die. Now we got to go back to the state. Some of these brothers is making music, even if I disagree with the subject matter. I listen to that shit when I'm in the gym. Mm-hmm. I have a filtration system, and I know the difference between art and life. Yeah. But Nip would be alive now if the state was respecting his Second Amendment rights, which is the supreme law of the land. He obviously changed his life around. Right. He obviously was on what he on, right? He got murdered at his place of business, and his friends, a lot of them convicted felons, supposedly are unlawful to carry a firearm to protect themselves. That's the state. Gun control got Nipsey Hussle killed. Mm. The racist practice of gun control got Nipsey Hussle killed. Obviously, there's an individual, Shitty Loke, that physically pulled the trigger. Right. But both are accountable. The state that makes a rule where men in a state law that is not superior to the federal law, The supreme law of the land is the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. I would contend that every hip hop artist that has been murdered in a gun-free zone or murdered because they could not carry a firearm to defend themselves, the state owes their estate a bunch of fucking money. Nipsey had to be worth generating $100 million.
Mm-hmm.
Your laws made it where that man, your unconstitutional statutes in California, we've seen that Sheriff Villanueva in LA County was doing a pay-to-play thing, giving licenses to carry to the people that was his friends, right? We've seen Nipsey, in the 60s and those guys, that area being targeted. So these guys was like, I don't want to go to jail for an unconstitutional state statute that is in opposition to the supreme law of the land. I say Nipsey's estate should sue the state of California. But when I start saying this shit, the hood start going, oh shit, that's true. Yeah, it's true. But don't nobody say this to the community like this. I don't give a fuck what an unconstitutional statute says. This place, the Bill of Rights, is a list of rights that you have as a human. You are naturally, I didn't make these rules. The founders to this place did. They literally said, this is a list of things that the government cannot grant you these rights and they cannot take them away. The first one is the freedom of speech. Mm-hmm. Imagine if people said, well, we do need to be able to curb speech. No, we don't. I have the freedom of speech. Now, someone has the freedom to disassociate.
Right.
But imagine if somebody said you need to have a license to speak. You would be like, what the fuck? They were all up in arms. But somehow when it comes to the very next one, Second Amendment on the Bill of Rights of the Constitution of the United States, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. My state, Pennsylvania, Article 1, Section 21 says the right of the people, Pennsylvania, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be questioned. Don't ask me a motherfucking question. But somehow they convince black people that this shit ain't supposed to be for us. We are the most libertarian people ever. We don't want the government involved in our shit. We don't want the government taking more and more of our money. We don't want the police showing up unless we fucking call you.
Yeah.
Every black person should be a libertarian. We against the war on drugs. You mean to tell me, shouts to AR Ab. You mean to tell me AR Ab got sentenced to 42 years for nonviolent drug charges? No homicide. He never, that ain't have nothing to do with no homicide. So you mean to tell me a motherfucker that want the heroin, want the dog food, want the powder, want the soft, want the hard, they want this. You got the product, they got the money. That's called commerce. So while you saying that shit to me, right? And I'm not saying, listen, the moral, I don't shoot heroin, I don't sell H, none of that. But what I'm saying to you is each person, when you're talking about freedom, like the founding fathers was talking about, who took drugs, who had hemp farms, who took opium. That's what these dudes did. You don't get as the government to determine who gets to do that. And if you telling the hood that they wouldn't be in alignment with that, it's not like if heroin, think about this. If heroin was legal tomorrow, right? Nobody that's going to watch this interview would be like, you know what? It's legal now, so I'm going to go get on H. Nobody would fucking do that. But we would be like, yo, if you want to shoot it, yo, he sell it and whatever. And all it means was people wouldn't be going to jail for it. Non-violent, voluntary exchanges. Mm-hmm. So when I start talking like this is why Charlemagne in the Breakfast Club won't have me on. Because now we talk, this is why y'all servers going magically like something going to happen with this interview or some shit, right? The reality is there's the potential to fuck up a lot of our ops money. There's money in scaring people into like not saying certain things because it's control. There's money in convincing black people to only vote a particular way. And I'm not saying you got to go Republican. I'm a libertarian. It's the third largest political party in the country. There's money in keeping the war on drugs going, telling people that like it's really good for the community when in reality we've been the targets of the war on drugs. It's money in sending motherfuckers to jail for that war on drugs. It's money in telling people that they are supposed to do what the government tell them, and that's the exact opposite of what the framing and founding documents to this place is. So I'm gonna fuck up a lot of money by telling people like, you should know the Constitution. You should definitely have a lawyer on standby. That money you spent at the strip club, you better put a fucking constitutional and criminal lawyer on retainer. You know what I mean? I'm gonna tell people the truth. I'm gonna tell people they should be looking back into Johnny Cochran's work with the reparations assessment group. I'm gonna tell the hood that. And if y'all don't fuck with it, cool, don't. But I'm just telling you, it's nothing in this interview that someone from where we from is gonna disagree with me on. They might give some pushback around drugs, but they're giving that pushback on a moral perspective because they don't want to take drugs. Cool. But what you don't want, you don't want. That don't mean that person don't want it. Because if that was the case, at least 100,000 people a year die from. I smoke cigars. That shit is cancer. Mm-hmm. So why that one? Okay, white sugar is 6 times more addictive than cocaine. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yep.
Think about that. Everybody should read Nutricide. God bless the dead, the Dr. Laila Africa. You know what I'm saying? So these are the things that, going back a bit, why the conversation has to be refined. I'll be more dangerous when I start wearing like suits and looking like Obama and like doing my hair all the time and like making it look corporate. That's my next phase. Then that's where the real danger will come. Right now, they kind of like he's not really a threat. You know what I'm saying? And I don't got enough bread yet. Right. You know what I'm saying? I'm waiting for the Illuminati to come give me $800 million. You know what I'm saying? Then I'm going to stop talking. But
right. With that being said, my next question, like what you do, right? A lot of people been destroyed for, you know what I mean? Just what you preach. Do you ever fear that? Do you ever have like think that the FBI or somebody may be trying to, infiltrate or watch what you're doing?
They watching.
For sure.
I don't care. Just don't like when I got thick bitches, don't put that out, FBI. Like keep that in, like don't put that footage out. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get at Rihanna when, you know what I'm saying? I gotta look somewhat, you know what I mean? I don't give a fuck, man. Like I didn't expect to be alive this long.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like no one escapes Earth alive. Like if it's time, it's time. That part, I'm interested to know who my the people closer to me. I'm interested to know when it comes out, like, oh, you was the fucking ops. Oh, damn, that's cool.
Wow.
You know what I mean? I'm interested to know who that is. Mm-hmm. But out of curiosity and inquisitive nature, not like, and again, it don't even make sense for them to kill me. I've told them my number. I've told the internet. It's $800 million. Give me $800 million. I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop talking. Give me 800. I'm going to tell y'all how y'all know if I've been compromised. I've said this for years. If y'all see me show up, go back a bit. It's some goofballs that are absolutely compromised. Talib Kweli, goofball, compromised. Lupe Fiasco, compromised. Chuck D, and I respect Chuck D. We was going back and forth on Twitter, compromised. Don't know how it happened. I talked to Professor Griff right after my back and forth with Chuck, and it wasn't aggressive. I'm not saying these things towards these gentlemen aggressively at all. They got it. Everybody got their own path, right? But in regards to what's beneficial for the Black community, Lupe for a whole year was talking this fucking get vaccinated dumb shit. Now, if you want to get vaccinated, cool, get vaccinated. But seems to me like most of the things that we said about this vaccine, so-called, because it's not a vaccine, Pfizer CEO last week said, when they asked them outright, I think it was in London or somewhere, they asked them like, yo, did you guys test the Pfizer vaccine to see if it stops transmission? I'm going to say that again. Did you guys test to see if your Pfizer vaccine stops transmission? That's the fucking job of a vaccine. to stop the transmission. Did you guys check to see if it does that? No. So all of the people that was conspiracy theorists over, having it seems like they making a lot of whatever. So my point is, Lupe for a whole year, 2 years was telling people get the vaccine. I did him and Royce's podcast when they had it, and it ended because Lupe was on some sucker shit, right? Mm-hmm. I did their podcast, and he was telling me I'm a gun owner, and I don't see why someone would need that many guns. Listen here, Mr. Occupy Wall Street a couple of years ago. Right. You're the exact fucking opposite. This shit make me believe in that cloning shit. Right. Because it's like you was the exact opposite. Either they got you on tape doing some gay shit and you don't want it to pop out or whatever it is. But how you go from that to that? So I've told people where I've been compromised. These are people that if you are doing absolute grassroots groundwork for Black communities, don't listen to Talib Kweli, don't listen to Lupe Fiasco, don't listen to Chuck D. Listen to their music, appreciate them as humans. They extreme leftists, they have very little balance, stay on what they on. And I say that with love and respect for those gentlemen. You know what I mean? Don't listen to them, though. Now, here's where I will be compromised, and everyone can know that I've been compromised. My favorite vehicle is a Bentley Continental GT. If y'all see me with two Bentley Continental GTs, one black and one white, it's over.
Right.
I got the 800 million somewhere. Just don't listen to me.
And that's all we're gonna say, brother. Don't listen to Brother Taj no more.
He's done. He's already done. But my point though is like in a lighthearted way. I'm not really. I don't even think about that shit. I'm too busy working, man. I'm too busy. What the boy saying? And Bruce Lee, Enter the Dragon. I'll be too busy looking good. Like I don't have time for it. I already know how I'm gonna go. I'm gonna be 99. I'm doing the Betty White shit. I'm gonna have all of my grands and great grands around me on my farm. That's the direction I'm going. I'm gonna speak that into existence.
Facts. And we know you don't got a lot of time, man, so we ain't gonna hold you too much longer. But I definitely wanted to ask you one more question because it kind of circles around everything we were talking about. Jalen Rose, he dropped a tweet maybe a couple hours ago. It said this. He said, sadly, during election years, famous Blacks are targeted as props to swing votes from their massive followings for a check. If they are willing to go against the best interest of their own people, keep score. Now, this is something in a conversation we've had on this platform since the inception of it. We've called names out on people that we suspect. We don't know. D.L. Hughley's and the other people that promote the Democratic Party so heavy around election time. We like, somebody's putting some money in them motherfuckers' pockets. I don't care what you say. And now we're starting to get confirmation here and there from people within the industry. Talk about that because it all kind of circulates with the fear tactics. You look at who really is promoting, let's stop gun control. It's one party. So talk about that, how certain celebrities within our culture are paid to put those fears and to put those type of ideals within our community and get them out there in November to vote a certain way, and it ends up biting us in our ass for the next 4 years.
So a few things. One, that's our fault. These people ain't a part of our culture. They not at all. Kanye West saying what he said about George Floyd is still more of our culture than these guys telling people to vote Democrat. I want to be very clear. I think that what he said was absolutely wrong. Yeah. Incorrect, factually incorrect. I don't think he should be canceled for it, but it was wrong. And I think that disrespectful shit that he said, along with other things that some taken out of context, he's still more about Black culture than the people telling us to vote Democrat.
Yep.
Sure. The people that are telling us to vote Democrat, and the vast majority of them get a check. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt about it. Just like the people trying to get people to vote Republican are getting a check.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's why I'm a libertarian. That duopoly, bro, it's the same thing with different colors on it. Did y'all know that brown sugar is white sugar less refined, sprayed with caramel coating, like brown coating.
Sure didn't. That's crazy.
That shit is wild. It's the same shit. They just don't granulate it as much. They let it be clumpier, and they spray it with this brown shit. It's
crazy.
the same thing, though. My point, though, is that's our fault. If you don't inform yourself, and you got a short memory, right? If you don't inform yourself of what the Democratic Party is, was, has done, that was the party of the Klan. That was the party that wanted slavery to continue. That's not me capping for the Republican Party, but the fact of the matter is the 13 first black senators were Republicans. That was a third party at the time to stop and end slavery. That's not saying that they are now highlighting them saying, the GOP right now is weak as hell. Thomas Massey, maybe, Rand Paul, obviously, but these guys come from a libertarian background. They just had to win, but by going, saying they Republican. My point, though, is they damn sure ain't say they Democrat. You can't really know history and say you were a Democrat. These same groups of people don't know that LBJ said his famous line I'll have those niggers voting Democrat for 200 years. Yep. That's not the soil that we come from. It's just not. And it was not beneficial for us. Frederick Douglass, Republican, like super black, fought against slavery, abolitionist, Republican. But the GOP and the Republicans, do they highlight that? They should be screaming that shit from the mountaintops all the day, all the time. And they should be doing things in the communities that they say they want to vote in. But you know what they do? They leave it up to goofballs. Again, I don't go back and forth with women. So I don't argue too much about Candace Owens. But her little sidekick dude, the cop bull, that just always got something to say about black folks when we getting murdered. White conservatives will listen to that goofball because it's easy. He's going to say things that the bigot, because not all white conservatives are bigoted. Let me be clear there. But the bigoted portion of the base, they need somebody as a mouthpiece to say the bullshit. Well, you blacks are doing all of the crime. You blacks aren't taking care of your kids. When that has been debunked a bunch of times. Yeah. But they need that black person to say that shit so they could feel like, it's not racist. He said it. He's black. My point in that is you guys in the GOP or the Republican Party have failed at the PR game. My lawyer used to tell me all the time, man, facts don't matter in a court case as much as who could tell the story better. Like, I was accused of fucking rape. I had all of the facts, but I had to tell us. My lawyer had to paint the picture. This is where they was at. He came in there as a 21 and over nightclub. This young lady, he didn't have sex with. It's a travesty. Had to paint the picture right. If I get a drab ass, there's a joke by what's his name, Bill Burr, who's one of my favorite comedians. He was like, no doesn't mean no. He's like, when we talking about Me Too movement and all this other shit, no don't mean no. Like, it just doesn't. He said, no means no. But if you're flirting, he was like, this doesn't mean no. If you, come on, girl, come on. And she's like, no, stop it. You're so bad. Stop that right now. No, oh my God, we're going to get in trouble. This is horrible. Then you get accused of Me Too. Mm-hmm. And then the stenographer read that shit. She said, no, this is bad. Stop. I don't want this. This is going to get us in trouble. No, this is wrong. That's not how, and the joke was, he was like, that's not how she fucking said it.
Right.
So my point in that is the GOP hasn't painted the picture properly. The reason I was able to make like all of the black people in America start buying guns or at least looking at gun ownership differently with our work at Black Guns Matter is because I told the story right. I told the people, if you think that the system is racist, I don't think all of it is, but a lot of it is. One of the most fundamentally systemically racist practices in America is gun control. It was designed to stop you from having the means to defend yourself from Democrats, the Klan. So when I tell that story that way, motherfuckers is like, wait, what?
Yep. Mind blowing.
What the fuck? That's not me telling them, you on a Democratic plantation, you a slave, you ain't shit, I'm not doing that. You get more flies with honey. So that's our fault that they show up. If it was not feasible and it didn't work, they wouldn't be spending the bags they spend on it the way that they do. It's a good return on investment. It's our fault for not making the return bad money. And that's what the work that we're trying to do here. You know, again, we shortly will be starting up the civics classes. I mean, we got a bunch of stuff here. We got energy healing, we got Reiki, we got street medicine where we do emergency, you know, trauma, right? Street medicine, just everything, health and wellness, all kind of stuff. My point is we're gonna add civics to this, because civics with a twist, me saying to black people, like, you should be the most American people of all. And I don't mean like on some sellout crazy. I mean, you should be about free enterprise. You should be about limited government, limited, as little as possible. Mm-hmm. You should be about being able to protect yourself. You should be about ending the IRS. You should be about abolishing the Fed. You should be about all of that freedom and patriotic shit. When I show people that in the civics class, they'll start to, you know, change a little bit, you know, in that way. So it only works because we have not made the culture be about getting money and keeping money. We have not made the culture about being sharp. We have not made the culture it's cool to take care of your community. We got to do that. It's cool. The culture got to be politically educated. I need everybody watching this to know at least 5 of however many city council people you got, or a decent amount. Politics moves the world's resources. So you got to politic, and that don't mean you got to be Democrat, Republican. Look into independent. You don't got to be libertarian. You should look into libertarian. We got a platform. It makes sense, you know, and people should do it. And support the organizations doing the work in your community, man. It's a lot of resources, knowledge, and control that we can have from the local level. We can be very involved and influence those things to benefit our individual rights as well as our collective communities if we all get, you know, our hands on deck on a local level.
Dope.
Yeah, I'm good.
We definitely appreciate you, brother. Maj Toure on the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast. Y'all hit that like button, that notification bell wherever you happen to be watching or listening. Before we get up out of here, brother, let the people know where they can find you and where to follow. Yeah,
I got banned off of Instagram 3 times. So my new Instagram page is Big Daddy Toure, BIGDADDY Twitter, my name, Maj Toure. Everybody, if you're listening to this, man, go to the website, check out the classes, see the work that we do. That's solutionarylifestyle.org. If you're moved by this conversation, all of the classes that I mentioned earlier that we do here at the center and across the country are free. We are able to do that because of your voluntary support. So go to givesendgo.com/solutionary. Donate a couple of bucks, man. We need like 158 people to donate $100 to get our next benchmark of $75,000 raised and given away for this campaign. So please go to givesendgo.com/solutionary. You'll be able to find all of that from my social media. It's in the link in all of my bios. And let's just be kind to each other. All let's give a little bit. Let's share some information. Let's show empathy for each other, and let's get stronger together collectively.
Indeed. We got Maj Toure on the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast. You heard the brother. Go follow him now. Sir. Man, until next time, I know we got something scheduled next couple of weeks. Can't wait to get that popping, man. But until next time, man, keep doing what you're doing great work out here, man. And salute. We appreciate you.
Appreciate y'all. Peace.
All right, brother.
Take care, brother.
All right.